G'day YouTube, welcome back to my channel Bonsai Works. I'm David. Today I'm going to give you a front-on view of me styling this little Shimpaku Juniper. Now you can see probably how small it is. With my hand next to it, it's quite a nice little mini, but it's got a nice trunk, it's got some nice movement, and then it's got a bit of foliage out here. Now my plan for this tree is to kind of drastically change it. The reason I want to drastically change it is I don't want to have a semi-cascade or cascade. I want to try and get a smaller, more twisted up tree, more upright tree. Now the main issue, the best things are on this tree is this nice movement on this fat little trunk, beautiful movement, and then this is getting a bit too long and spindly. So this is a nice branch, but I don't want to just cut back to that and just have this. I really want to try and incorporate this branch into the design of how I'm going to style this tree. Now, as you know me, I love twisting up junipers and making them really twisted and encouraging small trees, compact trees with lots of bends and so on. So let's see how we go with this tree. I don't like at the moment, see how this goes straight out of the trunk, straight out of the ground, sorry. I'd like to maybe tilt it one way or the other. I'm not sure which way I'm going to tilt it. I'm going to wait and see how the top comes about. Also, if you turn the tree around, this is also a nice front as well. So we've got two good fronts. The other side's probably better at the moment. This comes a bit too forward at me. I know I can put it back, but there's something not quite nice with that area. Like side on, it does come forward, but it's too forward. But if I do this way, I can bring this forward and sit it on top. So that was the plan anyway. I'm going to try and bring this branch around and sit it in the top somewhere here, and then either tilt the tree slightly that way, most likely. I don't think I'm going to go that way, but you never know. Could go that way, could go that way, and we'll see how this fits into the design. So first thing is wire. I'm a huge fan, I'm a huge advocate of putting heavy gauge wire to put bends into it. Now you could use raffia, no problem at all using raffia, but I like to use heavy gauge aluminium and put the bends of the wire close together, like about 30-degree angle, not a 60-degree angle. Now, I could either put this wire into the base and give it a good start, which I probably will do, but the most important thing is which way I'm going to bend this trunk. So I'm going to bend this tree to me and around and up. So to me, every time it's to me. Now when I wire this branch, if I'm going to pull it to me, the wire at the end is going to be pointing at me. So let's start putting this on, see if I get it right. So I'll put it this way, I'm going to wire under, and when I come around, it's going to be pointing at me. I'll just put it on so you guys can see what I'm doing, so it makes sense. You can try and anchor it to the back. Now I'm probably using the same thickness as wire as this part. I'm only going to bend that part, but I need an anchor point. So always have an anchor point with your tree. So I'm not too fussed how this anchors around here. It could be pretty loose, but as long as it comes nicely around. Okay, so it's pretty good. So where is it pointing? The end bit is pointing to me. So oops, knocked the camera. So the end bit's pointing to me. So you can see it's pointing to me. Now I've just put a loop under that little branch there. I want to make sure that it doesn't, when I start to bend, it doesn't split away. So I've learned that if you keep it nice and close to the joint, it actually is pretty good. So I'm just going to wire this while you guys are watching, because I don't really show you this technique very often. Now this is the bit that's important, because I'm going to be putting heavy bends in it. Do you see how the space is quite nice and tight? That helps, almost like a tourniquet. Almost like a tourniquet for the branch, so it doesn't split. Almost like raffia, without putting raffia on. So raffia is great, but I just don't want to do it on little trees. And yeah, it's a bit of work. So this I found works really well and protects the tree and makes it much nicer, much easier and quicker to apply. So I'm going to go all the way. Now I always leave the end, see how I always leave the coil on. I don't really cut off, because it's very hard to judge when you're doing really tight, spacings in the spacing. When you're doing tight spacing of 30-degree angles, usually when you're doing normal wiring, it's a third more longer than the branch and you can get away with it. But this is probably almost a half more longer, sometimes it's a bit less, sometimes a bit more, so it's a little bit tricky. So I always leave a bit long, a bit of extra wire, like a coil of it, and just wire it around. And it's pretty easy because you're just wiring the main tree, the main trunk. Now this is just practice. There's nothing secretive or mystic about this. This is just practice applying wire. There's nothing hard that I'm doing here. And using two hands, obviously holding the tree. Now there is a little bit, obviously there's a little bit of space between the wire and the branch, which is pretty normal for trying to put a heavy gauge wire on a much smaller branch. It's going to happen anyway. So, but this at least gives you an idea that there is a bit of a spacing. Just enough, just a little bit, without being too loose or too tight. Okay. Now I'm just going to leave this angle for now, just to give it some stability before I try and bend it. Now, always looking when I start to bend this, always use two hands, always look for, cracks and creaking, and do it nice and slow so you're not going to, over stress the tree too much. So we're just going to try with two hands, just going to see if I can work it back this way, slowly. I'm just going to zoom out so you can see how it's going more upright. Always checking, make sure there's no creaks and cracks. Always, yep, still going good. So it's still coming up quite nicely. So it's almost upright now, but I don't want to have a straight trunk. So I don't see how this bit is kind of straight now. I kind of want it to go over more. So it's not always straight. But then again, now we can actually look at if I bend it this way, if I bend it this way. I think I'm more likely to bend it have it change the planting angle to this way. If you can see that, most likely it's going to be sitting in something like that. So I'm just going to put that there for now and see how it all comes about. So the beauty of Shimpaku, even junipers in general, is how flexible they can be. So I've got that nice bend in there now. That was down there, remember? Now it's up there. Now let's work on the top. The top isn't as important as that bit there. That's the most important part of my bending. So because I got that nice and close to this, it looks nice and nice angles twisted around in this area. The most important area is that base there. Now we can work on, let's see where we can position some of these branches. Now I still want to come more around with this top bit. I'm going to try and get that around more. Okay, so that's looking good. And the beauty is I've got a lot of branching to play with. So I've got that nice branching at the back, sideways. I can bring all this down now and create a nice little small tree. So that's the beauty of having all that branching. Now, just by doing that, it's a totally different tree. So no more going for a cascade, which is what I want to avoid. Now I've got a nice little tree to deal with. Now I'm just going to go and pretty much wire all these branches, all the smaller branches, again with aluminium, and keep it nice and compact, and just position them in place, put them in place, and I'll show you what it looks like, because really that was the main bit that I wanted to show you, that bit there. The rest is just positioning the branching, and I'll come back and show you how I do that as well. Alright, so as promised, I've come back, wired the main trunks. I've put the tree on the angle that I'd like it to be, just slightly. Let's see if I can drop the camera slightly a little bit, just to get the right angle we want. So you can see there roughly where it's at. Now, the actual bit that was the apex, that was the whole branch down here, has now been twisted here, then come down here, and I've actually put it, kind of set it in this position, just for now, because I want to put it all the way down whilst I wire everything else. So let's start with the first branch. Now I'm going to try and, I've really compacted that anyway, so I'm just going to try and compact it a bit more and drop it down a little bit just to create a branch in there. Now this is roughly just putting things in place, okay? Now it's got a small branch up here that's kind of nicely in the way, but I'm going to put that around here and then put it as a, would eventually be another layer. We'll build that into there as another layer in there. So now I'm nicely and exposed in here. Now if you remember that little branch that was like a little trunk that was up the back, now I'll just turn it around and you can see I've wired it. That was that little trunk that could have been a new top, or if you cut back the whole tree you could have it something. So I'll put it, there's a little bit of a nice back branch. I'll just fill that in first. But this can be actually wired right around. And put in, make sure you put movement into the tree, because the more movement you put in, the more compact it gets. And bring it around, and I'll just slowly compact that into position, possibly somewhere around here. Some of these branches will then fill in around there, just to maybe hide this big bend, but that's okay. So I want to maybe try and incorporate something like that in there. So this is a bit shorter, this one's a bit longer, this one's a little bit higher, this one's a bit lower. Okay, make sure you have those different levels. Now I've got a few more branches, so that one's going to sit out there at the back probably, or I might bring it around. I'll see what I can do with that branch. That's just a sub branch of this branch. So maybe we'll come around and maybe make another little layer in there, layer there, layer there. So we're kind of starting to build the tree. Now the hard bit is all this. So usually what I like to do is try and bring a branch down and compact it to make a really nice apex. I never have a tall, straight, pointy apex. First thing, I've got this back branch. I might have to just bring that around a bit, bring it around, and eventually wire all this out to try and fill in this gap in here, to fill in this gap, and watch how this apex will come together. So all these little ones will be wired. That's side on. Okay, so now we've got, come back to the front, and now it's a matter of placing this. So maybe a bit more twisted around. So this was the top, now this will probably be a side branch. Down this way most likely. And now I'm going to have to wire all these little ones into making an apex. So there's a quick rough, I'll just put it back into where it is. Should be around there, the front. Move the tree. So you can see a nice little tree starting to form, but obviously it needs a lot more fine wiring. So I'm going to go away and fine wire all this, and I'll show you the final result. So here's how the final tree looks like once everything's been wired. Simply a matter of, it really is just a matter of wiring and placing branches and wiring them up into pads and so on. So that's really all I've done. Nothing too different to all my other videos and that you've seen on my channel. I'll link to a couple of videos for you guys at the end of this video in terms of how to wire the pads and so on and get the tree looking good. All in all, I think it's a nice little mini now. It's quite a small tree. There's my hand. Pretty much for size comparison, it's pretty much the height of the tree. So there you go. It's pretty interesting. I like it. From what it was, much better to have a upright tree rather than a semi-cascade, which we were probably leaning towards, but this now makes it look like a much older tree, much more shohin type of style tree. Really happy with the result. So hope you guys picked up some pointers with me trying to style this tree and showing you how to go about it, how easily I bent that branch that was all the way out here into a new upright for the tree. So anything's doable with wire and a bit of perseverance and using the right thickness of wire and the right spacing between the wire. So you can see how close that is, really quite close. All right, guys, any questions? Happy to answer. This tree will just now plot along. I don't think I'll repot it this year. It's winter here in Melbourne, so I don't think I'll repot it this year. Probably wait till next year once it fills out with foliage and looks really strong and healthy, and it'll be nice in a nice little, nice little shohin kind of unglazed some sort of pot. Could be in a nice rectangle with maybe soft edges. That's probably most likely, or it could even be a round pot as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you back for more next time. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.